In late May, U.S. President Donald Trump indicated that a potential deal between the United States and Iran was now largely negotiated. If finalized, it could bring to a close a regional confrontation that has shaken West Asia for nearly 3 months. Markets immediately reacted to the prospect of de-escalation. Brent crude prices fell almost 6% the day after Trump's remarks, sliding to around $97 a barrel. The full terms of the proposed agreement remain undisclosed, and negotiations are still ongoing, but the broader geopolitical consequences are already impossible to ignore. Across the world, one reality is becoming increasingly difficult to deny. Washington entered this confrontation seeking dominance, yet now approaches the negotiating table from a position of exhaustion and strategic failure. The war imposed on Iran by the United States and Israel on February 28th passed through multiple phases of escalation, uncertainty, and political shockwaves. Even during the ceasefire period, new developments continued to emerge almost daily. Yet, despite the twists and turns, one conclusion now appears unmistakable. The United States has suffered another strategic defeat in West Asia, arguably its 6th major failure in the region in the past quarter century. At this point, the outcome is already clear. Washington failed to achieve its goals. No victory, no surrender from Iran. Any agreement forced on the United States would now amount to one thing: a humiliating retreat, a quiet admission that the original calculations were wrong from day one. Tehran and Washington are reportedly nearing an agreement centered around a 60-day extension of the ceasefire. Under the proposed arrangement, the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow artery through which nearly 1/5 of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas passes, would reopen under Iranian oversight. Tehran would remove the naval mines it deployed near the waterway, while the United States would ease its blockade on Iranian ports imposed during the conflict. Iran would also regain the ability to export oil during the interim period, effectively bypassing portions of the American sanctions regime. The broader negotiations would then move toward the long-term future of Iran's peaceful nuclear program and regional security arrangements. Tehran's demands remain expansive and unapologetic: immediate access to frozen assets abroad, permanent sanctions relief, the withdrawal of hostile U.S. military pressure near Iranian territory, and an end to the war on the Lebanese front. Iran has made clear that if Washington attempts to reverse course or sabotage these understandings, it should be prepared for the consequences, including the possibility of a prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a scenario capable of rattling the entire global economy. The head of the Center for Studies and Security at Imam Hossein University, General Hassan Rastegarpana, said that the U.S. has long ceased to be a superpower in the eyes of the Iranian nation. To what extent do you think that this war damaged America's reputation as a superpower, reduced its credibility in the world, and on the other hand, increased Iran's stature and standing?
America's hegemony has gradually been broken over the past few decades, especially after the victory of the Islamic Revolution. At the beginning of the revolution, with the takeover of the Den of Espionage, around 68 volumes documenting American intelligence operations and America's malicious policies were published. Imam Khomeini referred to this as a second revolution. Later, during the failed Tabas operation, the hollowness of America's military power was exposed. After that came the 8-year Iran-Iraq War. during which they suffered one defeat after another, and America's power was further shattered.
The United States and Israel launched this war believing Iran could be broken. They believed that pressure would force surrender. But the deeper the conflict went, the clearer the reality became. Iran did not collapse. So Washington turned into threats, fear, intimidation, the so-called madman strategy. But Iran stood firm. And as the Iranian saying goes, the winter eventually ends, but the blackness stays with the coal. The very concessions now reportedly under discussion stand in stark contrast to Donald Trump's original rhetoric. Sanctions relief, the unfreezing of Iranian assets, and indirect recognition of Iran's strategic leverage were never part of Washington's initial vision. From the very first days of the war, Trump framed the conflict in absolutist terms, demanding nothing less than capitulation. General Rastakar Panah said Trump's total surrender demands and his order to assassinate Iranian figures, including General Soleimani, all stem from his inferiority complex in the face of Iran.
During his first presidency, Donald Trump carried out an inhumane act, and that was completely outside the norms of diplomacy, and it was the assassination of Haj Qasem Soleimani. According to what Western media reported, American officials themselves said that they had spent more than $7.5 trillion. But an Iranian general came and undermined all these investments. Trump, in an effort to delay America's decline and collapse, had Haj Qasem Soleimani assassinated.
In early March, he declared on Truth Social, "There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender." Around the same period, Trump even hinted at influencing Iran's leadership structure itself, boasting online, "I have to be involved in the appointment," like with Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela. Perhaps the most extreme statement came on April 7, when he warned that if Iran refused a settlement, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. God bless the great people of Iran. We also had the chance to talk to a senior member of the UK Workers' Party, Mr. Hossein Shafiei, on his trip to Iran. He said why we should not take Trump's remarks seriously. Last night, after repeatedly setting deadlines and threatening Iran, Trump announced that he is close to signing a memorandum of understanding with Iran. Now, why do you think the U.S. was not able to carry out with its threats and agreed to sign a memorandum that perhaps it never truly desired?
I don't listen to anything Donald Trump says. I don't care what he says. The only thing that matters is actions. He's just a liar, he's a narcissist, he's an egotistical maniac. He thinks that the world revolves around him, but it doesn't.
Now, however, unconditional surrender appears to have acquired an entirely different meaning in Washington's political dictionary. The U.S. naval blockade lifted. Sanctions relief embedded into negotiations. The Strait of Hormuz reopened under Iranian management. Fighting halted across all fronts, including Lebanon. Iran's nuclear program postponed to future talks, not dismantled. Iran's missile arsenal untouched and preserved.
Who is the only power that they have not been able to do anything about since the beginning of their time till today? The Islamic Republic of Iran. Because the Islamic Republic of Iran has refused to make any deals with Israel. Because the Islamic Republic of Iran has always been on the side of the axis of resistance. Because they've always been responsible. Whether it's in our region or whether it was South Africa under ANC, it's written in our constitution that we are here to support those who are resisting tyranny.
Reports increasingly suggest that Washington moved toward negotiations only after suffering major military and financial setbacks. Bloomberg recently reported that Iran destroyed approximately $1 billion worth of American Reaper drones, nearly one-fifth of the U.S. pre-war inventory of the advanced UAVs. And this may only represent a fraction of the broader costs now gradually emerging from the battlefield. We had in our studio at Press TV Mr. Alireza Zadbar, a university professor and an expert in the Iranian contemporary history. He said it is not difficult to call Trump's bluff. During the war, Trump has made many bluffs against Iran, from destroying Iran's naval and air force to completely destroying Iran and its civilization. The question is this a particular tactic that Trump uses to intimidate its opponent, or does he actually want to carry out these actions but is unable to do so?
ما در این تقریباً 3 ماه و قبل‌ترش
Over these past 3 months, and even before that, if you list Trump's threats, they are countless. He claimed that Iran's oil facilities would be hit, Iran's air force destroyed, Iran's navy wiped out. But if Iran has no navy, then how has the Strait of Hormuz remained closed for 3 months? If a country has no naval power, why are you unable to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
We have a lot more to cover today, but first let's take a moment to catch up on the latest headlines.
Hello everyone, welcome to the news section of this program. Here we'll go over some important news headlines. Iran. Pezeshkian, Iran decisions only within SNSC framework with leaders' approval. President Masoud Pezeshkian says that no decision will be made in the Islamic Republic of Iran outside of the framework of the Supreme National Security Council and without the coordination and permission of the Supreme Leader. In a meeting with the managers of the Islamic Republic of Iran broadcasting in Tehran on May 24th, the president stressed that his administration's commitment to national consensus is not a political slogan, but a deeply held conviction necessary for navigating difficult times. ISNA. Professor Robert Pape, the end of the U.S. hegemony has begun. Iran emerges as the fourth center of world power. In a comprehensive assessment of the recent military confrontation between Washington and Tehran, a prominent American strategist and senior analyst characterized the conflict as a strategic disaster of historic proportions for the United States. He emphasized that by delivering the exact inverse of the 1991 Persian Gulf War, the Islamic Republic of Iran has effectively brought an end to the era of absolute U.S. military dominance and global hegemony. Professor Robert Pape, professor of political science at the University of Chicago and director of the Chicago Project on Security and Threats, noted in detailed discussions across strategic analysis platforms that despite the empty rhetoric coming from the White House, Tehran is successfully consolidating a decisive victory against the world's leading power. Fars. IRGC permits passage of tens of ships through Strait of Hormuz. The IRGC Navy reported an increased rate of cargo transit via the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf, pointing to improved security and stability in the key waterway under its control arrangement. The IRGC Navy's Public Relations Department said in a statement that a total of 33 ships had passed through the Strait of Hormuz in the past 24 hours. The IRGC Navy noted that ships that were allowed through the strait over the past 24 hours included oil tankers, container ships, and other commercial vessels, adding that all of them had been cleared to pass after obtaining the required permits from the force under its security arrangements for the strategic waterway. Tehran Times. Iran's strategy for Persian Gulf, Hormuz Strait to shape West Asia's new order, Major General. The plans and strategies of the leader of the Islamic Revolution for managing the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz will guarantee the future of the region and a new regional order in which foreigners will have no place, a top IRGC commander said. Referring to the guidance of the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Mojtaba Khamenei, commander of Iran's Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, Major General Ali Abdullahi said Iran will secure the Persian Gulf and eliminate the enemy's exploitation of the strategic waterway while bringing comfort and progress for all nations of the region. The commander warned enemies that the leader's plans and strategies for the management of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz will shape the future of the region and a new regional and global order under the framework of the strong Iran strategy, emphasizing the foreign powers will have no role in it. Mehr. U.S. Army has faced deadlock completely in the face of Iran. A military advisor to the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Mohsen Rezai, has warned the U.S. against attack on Strait of Hormuz, saying that the U.S. Army has faced dead end in the face of Iran. In remarks published on May 24th, Rezai warned that any military action against Iran in the Strait of Hormuz could trigger a much wider regional conflict, saying Tehran may break what he described as a naval blockade and could even withdraw from the NPT. Speaking about tensions with the United States, Rezai said Washington and the administration of Donald Trump are facing a complete deadlock, warning that any decision to enter war with Iran would place the U.S. inside a dark and endless corridor stretching from the Strait of Hormuz to the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, Bab el-Mandab, and the Indian Ocean. Thank you for joining us in this section. Please do stay tuned for the main narrative.
The recent war was not an isolated confrontation. It came after two major battles in less than a year, the 12-day war in last June and attempted coup earlier this year. So what we are witnessing now is bigger than a single victory. This is success in 3 consecutive confrontations, 2 wars, and 1 failed coup attempt.
بر اساس همین محاسبه غلط جنگ 12 روزه رو شروع کرد.
The United States and Israel started the 12-day war based on a major miscalculation. Their goal were the collapse of Iran, weakening Iran's military capabilities, and imposing their political will on the country. Yet they achieved none of these objectives. Naturally, in a war like this, some of our people and some of our commanders were martyred, but we did not back down, and we responded decisively. When America saw this, it directly entered the war under the pretext of destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities. But that was nothing more than a wishful thinking.
In attacking Iran, Trump not only repeated the strategic failures of previous American interventions in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and Yemen, he added new miscalculations of his own. Mr. Zadbar said sometimes an easy victory might lead you to a hard defeat.
امریکا در عمر 260-70 ساله خودش جنگ‌های متعددی رو آغاز کرده.
The United States, throughout its 260 years of existence, has started numerous wars, both domestic and foreign. It has carried out coups in many places, and in the latest case, it even kidnapped the president of Venezuela. America is used to winning wars. If you watch Trump's interviews, when he wants to persuade public opinion, he says, "We spent 19 years in Vietnam, 20 years in Iraq, 20 years in Afghanistan, but I solved the Iran issue in just 2 months."
Just as George W. Bush invaded Iraq on the basis of false claims about weapons of mass destruction, Trump appears to have entered this conflict relying on deeply flawed intelligence assessments. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Mossad chief David Bernia reportedly convinced Washington that the Islamic Republic had been weakened beyond recovery after the 12-day war and the chaos earlier this year, and that the assassination of Iran's leadership would trigger rapid collapse. That assumption proved catastrophically wrong.
The United States of America went hand in hand with Israel under the impression that they're going to have no problems and they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do, and the Iranian people are not going to be able to answer. And the consequence were that the Iranian people did answer. They killed Agha, and by killing him, they united the whole of the Iranian people. And it was obvious to see that if you choose to be on the wrong side of this conflict, you're on the wrong side. You're going to lose militarily, you're going to lose assets, as the Americans did.
Earlier in January, Israel had already attempted to destabilize Iran internally by exploiting economic grievances and encouraging unrests. The rhetoric from American Israeli officials left little doubt about the broader objective. Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo posted on X, "Happy New Year to all Iranians on the streets, and also to all Mossad agents walking alongside them." The Mossad Persian language account issued similarly provocative messages. "Let us come out to the streets together. The time has come. We are with you, not just from afar and in words. We are with you in the field as well." Trump himself amplified the pressure campaign with his own incendiary message. "Iranian patriots, keep protesting. Take over institutions."
امریکا میخواد جلوی یک مدل رو بگیره، یک الگو رو بگیره.
America wants to stop a certain model and example from succeeding. It wants Iran, like some other countries in the region, to become a cash cow. But the ideology of the Islamic Revolution does not allow that. From this perspective, it was the perfect opportunity for Netanyahu to take advantage of the situation. Hezbollah had been weakened, Bashar al-Assad had fallen, and the axis of resistance had suffered setbacks. Netanyahu seized this opportunity because, as the Israelis themselves say, the head of the snake is in Iran. With the mistaken belief that Iran had become weak, they attacked Iran.
Yet the anticipated collapse never came. The attempted destabilization campaign was contained. The state endured, and the hoped-for uprising failed to materialize. It was only after that setback that Netanyahu reportedly pushed Trump toward direct military escalation. Iran says that the United States and Israel made a miscalculation in attacking Iran. The question is, why do you think that they made such a mistake in the first place? Are they not fully aware of their own power and that of their opponent?
از زمان کلینتون، بوش پسر،
From the time of Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama, Biden, and even Trump himself during his first term, they repeatedly said that all options are on the table. In other words, when assassination, threats, sanctions, and negotiations failed to achieve results, the United States ultimately resorted to the military option in pursuit of goals that required force. Some of those goals were openly declared: destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities, removing 400 kilograms of enriched uranium, dismantling Iran's missile capabilities, and preventing Iran from supporting the axis of resistance. But I argue that these were not America's true objectives. They were only the visible ones. The real objective was the collapse of the popular system of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And now more than 90 days have passed. Has the Islamic Republic collapsed?
The consequences for Washington's credibility have been severe. Not only did the United States fail to achieve its objectives against Iran, it also struggled to maintain confidence among its own allies. Even as the closure of the Strait of Hormuz began damaging allied economies, Washington failed to assemble an international coalition capable of reopening the waterway. Despite requests from the U.S. And even personal requests from President Trump, why did Britain refuse to enter the war on Iran, even though that it led to disputes between British and U.S. officials?
I think Britain recognizes the fact that Israel was the person that pushed America into this war, and they see no profit in it. And not only do they see no profit in it, they recognize the fact that within the first 3 days that the United States was going to be on the wrong side of this war. And the British, not just the British, any country does not want to end up where it's on the losing side of a conflict.
After the recent war, do you think that the West, especially the British community, views Iran differently? I mean, did they anticipate and expect Iran to respond and react in such a way?
Everyone in the world looks at Iran and does not feel bad about Iran. No one is blaming us for the prices of oil going up. No one is blaming us for issues that are happening in their economies. Everyone is squarely blaming on the person that started this war, which is America.
Trump then unveiled the heavily publicized Project Freedom operation in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command announced that guided missile destroyers, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, multi-domain unmanned platforms, and 15,000 service members would support the mission. Yet within just 2 days, the operation collapsed before it could meaningfully begin, an embarrassment that only deepened perceptions of American strategic decline.
For us, a measure of the power of Iran, the power to absorb pain, and the power to project that pain, an equal measured pain, no more, no less than what was done to them. So there's a lot of respect for us, a huge amount of respect. But there's also the fact that the British people are sick and tired of Israel. So are the American people. They're sick and tired of what Israel did in Gaza. And that's, the currency that is the destruction of Israel as a nation was paid by the children of Gaza.
It's true that some major issues might remain unresolved for the time being, such as sanctions, reparations, and the control over the Strait of Hormuz. But one fact stands above everything else. The United States used maximum pressure, its most advanced military tools, its full political weight, and yet it failed to bring Iran to its knees. That failure signals something much bigger, a shifting balance of power in the region and far beyond. Iran today retains its most decisive strategic card, control over the Strait of Hormuz. Mr. Zadban reminded us that the Strait of Hormuz was closed when the world closed its eyes on the atrocities of the U.S. and Israeli regime against Iran.
جنگ هرمز
The Strait of Hormuz had always remained open, with oil tankers and commercial shipping continuing as usual. This was true even before the war. In other words, although the Islamic Republic of Iran had the right to enforce its sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, it chose not to do so. Iran did not close the Strait of Hormuz. Rather, it was the United States of America that, by creating insecurity and instability, caused Iran to close it.
But beyond geography, Tehran has also demonstrated a deterrence capability that now shapes calculations across the Persian Gulf. Its missile and drone capacities have fundamentally altered the regional military equation. And analysts increasingly point out that Iran still possesses additional leverage it has not yet exercised, including influence over the Bab el-Mandab Strait at the entrance to the Red Sea. Mr. Shafi underlined that Iran could do many other things, but it would not, principally out of ethical reasons and rules of engagement.
What Iran has done is it's shown a temperament that has shown it to be absolutely fair with everything. You've attacked our country. We've removed your bases because those are the places that are being used by the Americans to do that. But then we could have quite easily, and we still can do today, destroy every desalination plant, destroy every single airport, destroy every single power plant, refinery in Saudi Arabia, UAE and everywhere else. But we didn't do that. That means our military capacity is more than capable to do those things, but we choose not to do that because it's not the right thing to do.
According to the New York Times, classified assessments indicate that Iran still maintains operational access to 30 of its 33 missile facilities near the Strait of Hormuz. Roughly 70% of its mobile launchers reportedly remain intact, along with nearly 70% of its pre-war missile stockpile. These assessments sharply contradict the public narrative promoted by the Trump administration about a supposedly shattered Iranian military. At the present moment, how do you assess Iran's performance in the recent unprovoked war? And to what extent do you consider Iran to be victorious?
It's a complete victory for Iran. There is no doubt, by any measure that you'd like to think of, that Iran is in any way a loser in this situation. Militarily, the mosaic system that we've got in place means that you can't destroy the military of Iran. Any one of those bases out of 31 provinces, which have got some 200 plus, underground systems that are able to send missiles, drones, and everything else you can ever imagine to bring the pain.
This growing gap between rhetoric and reality is precisely why many political observers now argue that Iran has emerged as a new global power center. After all, ordinary states do not withstand sustained military, economic, and political pressure from a superpower, let alone force that superpower into negotiations on revised terms. As the saying goes, what does not kill you makes you stronger. That's all for today. Thank you for watching from the whole team. Please do join us again same times next week to see what else is on. Until next time, take care.